Comics Corner, you'll have to excuse me a little bit. I think it might be my sinuses, but something in the field here is messing with me, so my voice is kind of a little raspy. We're gonna work with it though. It should be okay. Let's get started. From Johnny Monolith at hotmail.com to rexpop at virgin.net. Date May 16th, 1999. Subject the smile, the handshake. I told you how I'd been approached after our report hit Crowley's desk. The 11 o'clock call. Our findings had come to the attention of an even more shadowy branch of intelligence based underneath the old wartime tunnels in Whitehall, apparently. Going down. Now read on. When you say I'm made to be an officer. Excuse me. Let's try that one again. When you say I'm to be made an offer, you'll bloody see. T? I'd like to introduce you to a very important colleague of mine. Good heavens. Basically, they've asked me to work for them. John 6, you come highly recommended. An hour ago, I was watching an injured fox having its limp done on Animal Hospital. If you want me to fix fox legs, I'm willing to give it a go. Otherwise, recommended for what? We followed your work with Division X, sir. You've been our link with the terrorists, and you helped coordinate the department's checkmate of Sir Miles Delacour. How much longer must I fillet your ego? 1. There is no terrorist cell. They're all very lovely friends of mine. 2. In my time, I've worked for the Civil Service, the Teachers Union, the Samaritans, and the Khalsa Kebabs in Stoke Newington. So why should you work for us when you don't even know who we are? I don't think we've mentioned work at all. Do you recognize this? The Hand of Glory. I've heard some of the gory details. By God, why don't you just leave me with a hydrogen bomb in my desk drawer and have done with it? There are tunnels here, old places from before the war. Ours is a very old organization, but we always try to move with the times. Would you care to join us, Mr. Six? So I thought I'd say yes, why not? Your elegant turncoat, Mr. Six. Dear Edith, I took this picture of Kajuharo, one of the world's earliest porn theaters. The woman on the left looks like she's just remembered she left the gas on. I had my old recurring dream again. Robin always said it was just a classic primal scene, me walking in on my mom and dad shagging the insurance man on the kitchen table or something. But it's not from the past, it's from the future. It's my strongest memory of the future. A bullet in the right place can change the world. Am I normal? From Ariel at gloriana.freeserve.uk to rexpop at virgin.net. Date May 20th, 99. Subject, sorry. Ceci n'est pas un pipe. Pepe. Thank you for the Freudian erotica. The image of your hand holding a gun while you open a door is one that never fails to arouse. Stanislav Grof calls it basic perinatal matrix the third. It's visions of death camps, biological filth, demonic types of sexuality, and human technology. We abuse one another. We experience psychotic morbid states of shame, disgust, greed, fear, and power. And I was terribly anxious about you, my dear. Well, the video's in the library. Turtle comes out of her shell, and it's got me on the front covered in shit spunk and Scott's porridge oats. But the experience caused my shyness and my anorexia, and the lump I had in my left breast is gone completely. Communion wafers for breakfast, monsieur? How very decadent. I exist as a solid-state thought form. The Tibetan language, which has precise words for the most outlandish ideas, would describe me as a tulpa. Crystal water and the communion wafer fill my airy guts like 40 beers in a curry. The women of this century embody so many of the strengths I dreamed of. You see? Gold from shit, the alchemist Negredo. There is something to be said for befriending even Beelzebub. Someone has to be lord of all the good little flies who labor to process society's sewage and hide us from the sight of our droppings. Quite. I will be departing for India shortly, monsieur. I fear we will not meet again, but I consider myself fortunate to be able to include you in the index of my memoir. Likewise, and my experiments, Lady Manning. Be honest, I value your opinions. You make a fine pornographer, monsieur. You've mastered the mathematics of lust, but I fear yours is still the utopia of burlesque shows and what the butler saw machines. There is progress to be made here, but something is missing from your equations and catalogs. Perhaps you still need time to understand what that something is before you unleash Desideland on the hoi polloi. When time begins to ripple around Lacoste, I suggest you will be close. I also expect it will happen in the presence of my dear Thiero and your driver. You are a most audacious man, monsieur. Ah, well, there you have me, my dear Lady Manning. And so I took my leave of the ghostly monarch in the kingdom of flesh. Oh, excuse me, guys. And so I took my leave of the ghostly monarch of the kingdom of flesh. Pornographers in our turn, dear lady, may also play our part. When this dam bursts, we'll all be wet through. Well, I'm not sure if I like this new fellow, but may I say again how very fond I've grown of you and Thiero. Mademoiselle, I hope you both have adventures, you and your odd little babies. I was never able to leave any of my own. Excuse me, let's try that one again. I was never able to have any of my own, of course. Beastly little things. Love, Edith. Send. Carmageddon continues next issue. Interesting. Fancy meeting you here, Mason. Carmageddon, Part 2, Type Omega. Oh, Buddha, up yours. I read the same book. Weird. Well, I've been doing what you suggested, staying mostly in flea pits, but checking into a 5-star hotel every week when I need my shorts laundered. Somebody left the book in this little room I had in Kaikoru. I read it on top of Ayer's Rock. Anyway, the Kardashev classification of technological abilities goes like this. A Type 1 civilization is able to use energy on a planetary scale, altering the local environment, building, and reshaping it. That sounds like our society right now, or our civilization right now. We are able to do all of that, and have to some extent. Which has, messed with the planet a little bit, that we might not care to see in a number of years. Might mean our demise. Us, right? And Type 2 would have access to the energy equivalent of the sun. We do not have the access to the energy equivalent of the sun, even though some might say that the atom bomb is technically the equivalent of the sun in terms of energy. So maybe we are a Type 2 society. Our civilization, rather. Which means Type 2s can restructure and manipulate entire solar systems. Okay, we are not to that level. We're trying to get to that level, but we're not to that level. Type 3s then would operate on a galactic scale, with access to the energy equivalent of the whole Milky Way. I don't think we'll ever be on that level. I mean, never say never, but I don't know, mankind. That's a lot of birthday candles. The amazing thing is where Barrow extends the classification to imagine a hypothetical Type Omega civilization, remember? A race so advanced in the manipulation of space, time, and matter that they can create and control whole universes. Some food for thought. What if this entire world that we're in right now is a manipulation of an Omega civilization, right? Like, everything that we're doing right now has already been manipulated in somehow, in some way, by a civilization we can't even possibly begin to understand. What we call God is actually this giant civilization, like massive, spectral civilization that we just can't even grasp. It's almost like the Bible says that man cannot understand the will of God. Like, they're so above us that we can't even begin to describe what they could be. So a lot of people would call them gods, and in all essence they would be gods, because they would be able to do all the things that we as humans have defined as godlike. I mean, as he says here, a race so advanced in the manipulation of space, time, and matter that they can create and control whole universes. All those are the equivalent of a god, even a creator god. We're talking about a creation of an entire universe. That's godlike by any spectrum. And what would they look like if they could move through space and time at will? Would we know them if we saw them? I don't think we would, honestly. Again, they're beyond the realm of human thought. We would be an ant to something like them. The last few months, I've had a lot of time to think about what happened to me as a child. The sickness, the abduction. What happens when you work in a fish factory? You eventually ignore the persistent bad smell, right? If you live by a busy highway, you stop hearing traffic noise eventually. Things become invisible to us when they're there all the time. Makes sense, doesn't it? You know what I'm talking about. It happened to you too, didn't it? Once or twice. Always the same in the end. Details change, that's all. Why is it, why is that, Mason? I've hung out with dozens of people who've experienced this, whatever it is. I've read Philip K. Dick and Terence McKenna and Whitley Strieber. Of course, we know about Philip K. Dick and Terence McKenna. I don't know this person, but I do know the other two, of course. Philip K. Dick gave us what we now call Blade Runner. Do androids dream of electric sheep? He also gave us some more stuff, but that's what we know most from Philip K. Dick. Every nervous system makes its own model of the event. Alien abduction, satanic abuse, shamanic trial, temporal lobe epilepsy. Fascinating. Whatever. I don't know if they're aliens or time travelers or neural spasms. We really do not know. What I know is this. Unusual information and insight seem to download into the brain. A kind of ego annihilation is followed by euphoric reintegration and a sense of extended understanding. There's a surge of creative energy all the time. All the time is understood to be happening simultaneously. Hold on, let's try that one again. That's very important. There's a surge of creative energy. All time is understood to be happening simultaneously. Remember that time isn't always a straight line? Something like that. I think Doctor Who was trying to prove that. They try to, talk about that there. Weird synchronicities occur constantly. A new relationship with time, the self, and death. See, I've always kind of considered that. We always think of the past and the present, but if everything's happening at once, so we're being born, we're living, and we're dying all at the same time, it's really more fascinating. Like, I'll get done with this, and I'll go to bed, and then I'll get up, and it's the next day. But is it really the next day? I mean, sure, the sun's out. Sure, I've got to go to work. Sure, I resume my activities as normal. My brain tells me, okay, Grim, it's time for you to, take your vitamins and do your exercises and get yourself prepared for the day. And of course, I'll toil through the day and, go into doing this again. And then I'll go back to sleep and again and again and again. I mean, but if you look at it like this, when I was originally born, and the time that I'll eventually die, and the time that I've all lived, is all happening at the same exact period of time. So in that space, am I really actually going through the day-to-day age? Or is something else happening? I mean, when I die, will I actually be dead? It's something I've always thought about. It's like, sure, you bury someone, you say you pay your respects, and they're gone. But are they really gone? I know this sounds bizarre, but if things are all happening at the same time, does that mean, sure, they're gone to you, like you don't see them anymore, you don't, but are they really actually, vanished? I mean, maybe they just wake up. Like, say you had a dream that you're being lowered into, you're being lowered into the ground. You're in a coffin. I mean, it's a horrifying nightmare, right? Buried alive, even though you're clearly not alive to the people watching. They've paid their respects. You're being lowered into the ground. It's over. Maybe they're, walking out from the funeral procession going home. Um, but you wake up and maybe it's your time. I'm not saying it's the future, but I'm saying it's just another day. You don't you say, "Oh man, that was an awful dream." And you wake up and oh my god, it's school. Like you're back in school days. I had a horrible dream, mommy, that I was dying. I was being lowered. Oh, that's just a dream. Don't worry about it. But maybe you actually did die, right? It kind of makes you think. Maybe again, all these things have ended like in one era or one section, but you're not actually dead. Like things just keep spawning and spawning and spawning. Every ant you kill, it just comes back again. It's another ant. I mean, it's a very interesting thing. And scientists are still trying to crack this kind of thing. And of course, I've got some really thick occult books that I can't even begin to understand, like radio instructions to paraphrase Beetlejuice. um, so, yeah, it could be very well that Grant has something to say here. And I'm sorry if I've interrupted this comic a little bit, but I mean, I would always have a little rant if something strikes me. That's one thing I want you guys to remember, whether we're here on my underground platforms or we're here on YouTube. If there's something that strikes me within a comic book, I'm going to talk about it. So just get ready for that. But it won't do you any good if you're attacked by a lion or a VAT inspector. So how was it for you, Mason? Alien germs versus antibodies in the bloodstream of reality? And of course, there was, as I was saying, a relationship with time, the self, and death. Some very fascinating stuff again. We're not going to go back into it, but there you go. So how's the big hoax coming along? I call San Francisco every month. Takashi is well and has a new girlfriend. The Pentagon are very interested in our software. Development money pours in. There's always money for weapons. Takashi, of course, is booby-trapping the software and spending the dollars on his time machine. It'll be ready, he tells me, within the next decade. Ha! No hard feelings about blowing up your house then. The shock was good for me. It got me moving and living again. Don't worry about it. I'm having a better one built. Can we all come and live, Mason? Everywhere I go, the conversation always turns to menstruation. I just thought about something my mom told me. That's all. When she was 11 years old, her period started, and no one had ever bothered to tell her it might happen or what all that blood was about. Some things we didn't speak about. This is the first half hour of Carrie, Mason. No, it was Mom's real life. She went around for days in a state of terror, thinking she'd lost her mind, thinking she was dying, bleeding to death, thinking she was becoming an angel. All she was doing was growing up, but some things we just didn't discuss in polite circles. Imagine something like that happening to you. Imagine thinking you're going crazy, all alone with it. It just struck me, that's all. Mason, she touches down 2 hours from now. You're going to love Edith. London, England. Miles, our contact is becoming incoherent. 7 stars. Peer of the realm, where are you? I won't lie to you, Sir Miles. The outer church hierarchy are not satisfied with your increasingly disorganized efforts on their behalf. You're to be operated on, and they sent us to frighten you. We're the sort of people who find mental illness funny. Music, please. Let the punishment fit the crime. Guilty. 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 We sent a copy to his wife and one to his daughter in Barcelona, and one to Crime Watch UK. I told them Combat 666 will release the hostage in exchange for a signed photograph of Jesus. Who knows? Yours is a cruel, Calvinist intellect, Helga. What is it about cold climates and reformist religions? Keep up the good work while I charm the secret chiefs. There's a band by that name. They're very good. London, England. At least you're in time for once. Perfume and cigars. What is it with you? They were valuing one just like this on Antiques Roadshow. Probably saw Churchill through the darkest day of the war. This is no time for your brand of so-called sophisticated ironic humor, Six. The masks are off. I'm warning you. So, Harper's with Flint as we speak. The midget beckons, Mr. Crowley. After you. You've been spotted, Six. The department heads like your spunk. You've tipped for the top, God help us all. The top's a long way down. He's making the sign of Harpocrates. Shh. Don't you shoo me. This is above top secret business you've uncovered. Last night, Flint regressed below all 18 of his previous cover identities and recalled a primordial persona. A pre-bloody natal self, no less. Yeah, we've got him down here at HQ. He's like a wild animal half the time. I'm recording it all faithful, but it don't sound like the governor no more. The immune drive's accelerated on impact. Untranslatable concept. Oh, no, went in the shock hidden behind the billion mass of God. We've regenerated all but the deepest trauma sites. I don't know what that is. To the talking complex, George. Sorry, mate. John of Dreams is a complex structure. There was one code name we all used for a while. Sorry, I'm alright, George. However it looks, I'm alright, and part of this is still the governor. This part, see? And the governor has a blinding bastard of a headache down here on the material plane. So shut it, George, and let me get back to base. That's more like it. Cheers, governor. Of course, it was all very different in 1924. We had the Raj. And somehow I always thought the Indians were at their most splendidly Indian when they had an enemy to fight. Now they want satellite television and miniskirts, and we want sitars and bindis. Varanasi, India. More controversial views, Lady Manning. Controversy trots at my heels like a poodle, young man. I have trained it to do so. Edith, that hash is fucking preposterous. London, England. You look like that video for the Eurythmics. What? Sweet Dreams and Jolly Roger, you know? Hey, it's bad enough without you staring. How am I supposed to act like a fucking copper if I can't even do my fucking tie? Fucking hell. How are you supposed to do this? I can do a noose with my eyes shut, man, but I haven't put a tie on since my grand got run over. Here. Playboy, Playgirl, I love this. You look lovely, Jack. You're always lovely. You're alright, Fanny. Feels pretty weird stopping back home. Might as well be another fucking planet now. By the time we finish, darling, it will be. Alright then. It still shrieks 80s to me. I can practically hear the flock of seagulls. Listen to the Dancing Queen. The 80s are cool for the next few minutes, okay? I read it in a glossy fucking magazine. I'm happy looking like Annie Lennox. I didn't say that. I saw you as the other one, with the beard. Hey, I could weave a beard from the hair you just scraped off your ass. What's Helga? Jesus. I've stomped my way around the block a couple of times, okay? I've handled my fair share of fucked up characters, but Mommy, I'm scared of the lady. Don't be. I'm a restless high achiever. I lie compulsively about everything, and I make the most outrageous things happen just by thinking about them and putting all the pieces together in the right shape. Helga, this is the reality. You're photographing the fucking toilet like it's deadline for Vogue. The important mission, remember? You see a toilet. Baby, I see the final piece of the jigsaw. Behold, the Black Grail. Varanasi, India. I'm sure I knew one of the Langs in the 30s. Syphilitic chap with a boss eye. My grandfather. You were telling us about the Hand of Glory the night you activated it. What happened, Lady Manning? Please. Well, we'd all been rather reckless. That was our way at the time. And then Freddie started to scream, an awful sort of wail, like a cat being flattened by a lagonda. We'd spent such a long time sharing one another's thoughts, and then it was like falling all at once into an endlessly shrinking well. like Alice. Smaller and smaller until everything you were was folded so far in on itself it was gone forever. It happened in an instant. Then he just went out, like he'd been switched off. Our rash little experiment bent time, there's no doubt. We were able to see around time's corners for an odd little while. In the end we saw things we could not explain, nor properly endure. Freddy spent 6 months in a sanitarium. I have a photograph of him looking wild-eyed and unshaven in a pair of striped pajamas. Freddy ill in bed, 1924. He never forgave me. It wasn't until later we realized just how ill he'd become. He wasn't Freddy at all, really, and after Ronnie Tolliver was killed in Spain, our little band of Invisibles seemed to come apart. I went to America where I married and divorced two charismatic lunatics, one after the other. I missed all the ghastliness that befell everyone after the war. I was knee-deep in a ghastliness of my own making. All of my own making. And when I returned to England, briefly aged 70, and with an immensely readable collection of diaries, I had to add it was to a very different world. You asked me about time and what I've learned after working my way through a great deal of it. I'll tell you one more story about dear Mr. Reddy, my tantric teacher from long ago. You can decide for yourself, Mr. Lang. It happened in this very hotel, of course. Perhaps it's still happening now. Mr. Reddy was a strange one. His prodigious penis quite distracted me from his curious words. But I did write them down and found them only recently. What did he say? I typed it all into my computer. Conditions within time are ferocious. Our suits began to disintegrate after the first 20 years. At which moment he ejaculated in reverse, holding the semen in his testicles. Do not do that. I was lost for words, but I wondered what he meant by his suit. And as though hearing my thoughts, he first ignited my kundalini. Then he stripped off. Wow, interesting stuff. I shan't forget that in a hurry. Time can be tricky. One false move and you're suddenly you're 100. Oh, I like this one. I'm going to read it again. Time can be tricky. One false move and suddenly you're 100. Man, isn't that the truth? All right, Mason. Ghost stories got you paranoid? Stoned from her pipe. I needed some air. It's so hot. What were the chances of us meeting here? Now, all these coincidences. All seeing edges of something so big and so obvious it's invisible in its entirety. All the time she was talking. What would a type Omega civilization look like to us? Look. London, England. Where are we? You'll see. This was a road to the other world in old times when our organization was introduced. 200 million years ago in the Triassic period, the salt pans stretch in every direction. We still meet here. Those who search for us become us. Here in the bowels of the city, here in the cellars and in the subways. Have you made your decision? For all I know, you could be asking me to betray everything and everyone I ever cared about for the sake of what exactly? Still, you know me, I'll try anything twice. Show me these bowels of yours. Varanasi, India. I hate being old and tired. I hate not being able to dance. I hate smelling of damp and antique perfume. My suit is quite worn out. Edith? You know I have always risen to the challenge of fashion, and for a long time I've known exactly what I intended to do with these old clothes. I've come here to die, Gideon, and you shan't dissuade me, dear. But let me tell you why. Mr. 6. 2300 p.m. 30 MLS. Key 23. Direct via the angular gyrus to the language cortex. High-speed random letter combinations. Loading. Key 23 is a synthetic mind control agent. Under the influence of this drug, written words appear to be what they describe. I tried it with the word bliss and scrawled on a card my little sister drew for me. I entered a state Buddhists call, Nirvikalpa Samadhi. The rapid drop in metabolic function almost killed me. Authors we read because they make us comfortable and always give us more of just what we want, or the rewinding too far. Recording? The 38 extra letters of the alphabet are kept secret by those at the highest level of so-called global control. Sound reconstructions and of Excuse me, guys. Sound reconstructions of many words in the Ubersprech are now available, and if terrestrial words become things under the influence of Key 23, what will I see if I expose myself to alien worlds? It takes seconds. Some glossolago occurring. I'm not scared. I'm a logo go not I'm not. 11:23 alphabet generator. Wow. They're breeding like rabbits. Carmageddon Part 3, 6 minus 6. The alien language mutates the base phoneme. Vowels unfold into higher dimensional forms, double I's and triplios. Okay, triple O's. Sorry. Let's try that one again, guys. Vowels unfold into higher dimensional forms, double I's and triple O's. Compressed consonants, ses and a ta. Not sure when I'm saying this now. Is this a recording or am I talking? Of course, there's that. And then I said, it's beautiful. Say, whoa, huh? I see the word fuck in many different ways. Great. We're trying to free them, but they don't understand. I do. Was I recording that? What happened? 5 a.m. Jesus, where have I been? Who was I talking? Okay, interesting. They all look like little sigils. Varanasi, India. I guess you're right. It gets to that point when you don't want to stop. The world feels like it's turning underneath you, and the momentum's just... Still stoned, Mason? I know what you mean. Still, places to go, people to eat. Give us a hug, man, before people think we're a couple of homos. Something for you. The film you were rambling about the other night, the one you said explained everything. Don't let your cleverness get the better of you, Mr. Lang. Take care, dear. RVM module reference in the taxi. Mason remembers the name of the movie. Thomasina. In the hotel room with Edith and Gideon, Mason Lang explains. It's about this ginger cat who dies and comes back to life, and her name in the film's Thomasina. Even though ginger cats are generally male, I always thought, anyway, that's... Families like yours don't get rich without one or two nasty skeletons in the closet. I'm officially the black sheep of the family. The banking cartels have made threats via Dad. Even if they shut me down completely, I've made enough from Uncle Sam to build a fleet of time machines behind his back. In the hotel lobby, Ragged Robin is reading poems from her diary to Mason Lang. On the mountaintop, Mason Lang conquers Kilimanjaro. Why shouldn't you always hope for the best? RVM, reintegrated. Reroute to base tracker. I thought you were the Grim Reaper. Brought your breakfast and half an ounce of Jammer's finest for your sinuses. My old mum kill me if she saw this. She never gets this treatment. Well, perhaps if she'd fuck you, she would have, dear. Is that honey or mustard? Edith, tell me you're not serious about dying. London, England. Sir Miles' kidnappers are now calling themselves Doctrine Zero. They'll release him if we project, and I quote, a photograph of a fucked up Kosovan bomb orphan onto the Houses of Parliament. Kosovo. Remember, it's Kosovan. Miles has become an embarrassment. His blood and thunder tactics belong to the Middle Ages. I mean, look at this bloody mess, and there are no terrorists. You were quick to turn on him, Mr. Pennington, sir. Sir Miles is a great man, if you can't find the terrorist cell. These women were deliberately infected with BSE. British servicemen forced to butcher whores with bayonets just to protect him. In the name of God, why? I've been trying to run the acceptable face of this department while watching Sir Miles Delacour go off at a gallop into the world of paranoid schizophrenia. No, you betrayed him, you fucking worm. I know what you are. You're not my boss, fucking worm. For God's sake, Rossiter. Clive, Has everyone gone? Huh? Double fucking agent. Doctor, say I'm a worm, sir. Sir Miles' current predicament may not be media friendly enough for you, but believe me, his blood and thunder is very much on message. Say it! Sir Miles will be free and that monstrosity next door will be crowned on August the 11th. Why do you think the United Kingdom is participating in genocide, you with your fucking guts hanging out and shit smelling like a pig off a hook? He can't hear you anymore. The last thing he said was, "Mmm." Will that satisfy you to know that he died damning himself to rebirth in the invertebrate kingdom? This is strong meat. Call me Simon Rossiter. You have a bad reputation. You know me, Sir Miles. I'm one of your kidnappers, the crazy Bader Meinhof girl. One of those hoaxers crazed on solar flares ready to do any insane thing for publicity. Or something worse. Your brief was to find opposition, of course, and surprise, it's always there. Are you familiar with the Black Grail, the Cup of Abominations? Said to contain the shit and spunk of Judas as he spasmed to his death at the end of a rope with 30 pieces of silver jingling in the pockets of his caftan. Bringing them to the sphere always requires sacrifice, human bait. As a thought's entry into the material plane in 1945 was affected by the blood and agony of millions. How many will die on the battlefield this year to draw down the Archon of this aeon? Do you know what I am? My milk turns babies sick and mad and makes corrupt old men of them in seconds. I steal children and put them in pies for evil mothers to eat. I am a Generation War avatar. My sons are skeletons, my daughters abortions. I am the barbed wire mother, the Queen Archon, a Northocracy. So please, show me your interrogation technique. Break my spirit with a word. Tell me my worst fear and make me cry. Expose my weaknesses. Go on. What if all the things you think I fear are actually the things you fear most? Wouldn't you be scared then? Talk, Sir Miles. Varanasi, India, rather. The key to it all was Billy Chang in the end. It's all in my memoir. It's all in my memoir. Scandal after scandal. There was some beastly business in 1924 when he was locked away for over a year in Wormwood Scrubs. They deported him in the end from Albert Docks. Enough! I haven't had a drink since 1969. Billy, of course, we tended to romanticize the Chinese in those days. They seemed so decadent and deep. But Billy was a very strange and remarkable man. And he vanished in the end, you see. There were rumors that he died deaf, blind, and penniless, but that wasn't it at all. Maybe I'll just read it. Why does this birthday have a Last Supper ambience? Take a photograph. I've been doing a great deal of thinking, and what I've come to is this. Amid all the bangs and the drama and the grand passions, it's kindness and just ordinary goodness that stands out in the end. I had a miscarriage in 1933. It was my own fault, really. My sex life was colorful, to say the least. At first I thought I'd wet myself, and of course we all wore silk stockings in those days. It had bounced halfway down the stairs at Fortnum and Mason before I realized it had a face. I sat down in the ruin of my womb, crying my eyes out piteously, and I'll never forget such a very kind gentleman. He'd actually scooped it up in his hat. I just remember him in front of me holding it as though he'd done something so humanly right. And there was such a look of abject concern in his eyes. Imagine Jesus' eyes. Bon appetit. London, England. I don't know how you're doing it, but I've been watching you, the slight curvature of your shoulders which you consciously correct. You don't move like one of them. Her nerve sensitivity is surgically enhanced 10,000-fold. They burn in constant pain like the sun. Like those days in the meadow when things would become unreal and strange for you. You were about 11 or 12. The eldest child, gifted, dreamy, bowed by responsibility. You need only hand to. I can see the Ericksonian commands emerging through your sentence structure. All of your neuro-linguistic techniques are visible to me as emergent structures. What are you? This is key 23, isn't it? I'll have you lobotomized and turned into a doll. Get in line, Dad. Lucky for you, I'm here to cut you a deal, as the female spider said to the male. Varanasi, India. 75 years to this very day. That was the same year I met you. How very eventful time is. Your shirt is wet, though. Am I frightfully heavy? You're like balsa wood, Edith. If I throw you in the air, the currents will waft you to Calcutta. Just testing. It's not like you've stayed young while I've grown old. Not to me, it isn't. It's more like you've become more solid, and I less so. Remember when we met the second time, and I thought I was an incredibly old woman? Well, at least I could walk then. On that burning gnat. On that burning gat, rather. What a serious young man you were, Gideon. Tell me again what you were doing that day. I was watching a cremation. I looked up and you were hobbling towards me in a hat. There was no cremation. Only you saw it. To die in Benares is to be liberated from the cycle of rebirth, whatever that means. That's such an outrageously confident claim, isn't it? Well, I vowed a long time ago to put it to the test. That's one promise I kept, anyway. Edith, can you stand? You feel like the last few matches in the box. Take me seriously, or I shall tell a policeman you've been interfering with me. In perfect Hindi, if need be. You're sure about this? The water's like sewage, Edith. Oh, you're as silly as Freddy. This is the sacred Ganges. The microbes are part of the magic. Or as Mr. Reddy taught me to say, the Tantra. Bugger, Her Majesty! I'm not afraid of death's door. I'm sure I shall find Freddy crouched behind it, listening in on us with his tumbler. Edith, I thought I'd better call the doctor. She has a temperature of 125. She's a very old lady. I'm determined. Gideon, do you remember when we made up those funny songs at the piano in 1924? Better than you can. It was only 2 years ago for me. We can do some new ones if you want. Her heart. She's very ill. Oh, it really is quite a serious business at times. Edith? Where are you, Edith? The manager would like... Shh. I fainted on the roundabout. You're the only one of my old friends who made it. Spurt! Oh, there they are. Of course, it's time. Fruit. She, I know. 11:23. She knew exactly what she was doing. Carmageddon concludes next issue. Edie in the underworld. Wow, look at that. I can see the iterations, like the same door and sarcophagus scrolling past when the mummy's chasing Scooby and Shaggy along miles of dreamlike hallway. And Edith's dead. She hit the rim of the wheel of karma and escape velocity did the rest. I burned her skinny body and painted my skin with her ashes. The acid's coming from the edges, how crackly and fast. 3 too many. 3 too many. Seemed like 3 too many. My holy arse charring on the coals. Deep in the night panic of the cremation ground. Sweating in the heat of people oxidized to carbon for purely religious reasons. Shit, getting harder to write. There's so much of it to get down now. The connections, everything is connecting like the whole world's a join. The dots picture, the invisible emerging as a pattern from nowhere. A thought thinking itself. Edith's last email, the memoir, spliced with the alien language software Helga downloaded, plus the acid. The last night in the Varanasian. The molten edge of time and space. Everything is coincidence here. Just like the coincidence of the light coming on when you flip the switch. Try taking drugs and sitting in graveyards and channeling the dead through your laptop. See what happens. Smile. Carmageddon Part 4. Smile. Helga calls her alien alphabet generator Kali, which I know I can talk her in 6 into being an acronym for Kabbalistic Alien Language Initiator or something. The screen's a storm of fucked and fucking text, the Roman alphabet fertilized by Helga's holographic syntax. And like a Ouija ghost appearing in the smoke of someone's cigarette, Edith's voice emerges visible in the letterfalls and grammar bursts, the keys moving on their own. The Millennium Dome, the spiked breasts, the wire mother, the temple of Anti-Diana, almost complete on the banks of the Thames. The toxic womb, the buried bodies of Saddle Worthmore. Kill all the little innocents. The bad mother is being subconsciously evoked. Cruel Britannia. Her mother-child suckled on toxic milk. Edith's voice and her words and mine as I try to write this down. She's forming in the language kaleidoscope on screen. Ganesh is the scribe of the gods. I'm seeing the super Sanskrit on this word processor screen. The play of Leela, endlessly unfolding and ever present. Ghostly Anita's ashes, choking on the fumes and the melting black flakes that were bodies once. She's coming in from the edges, from all around at once. The voodoo spider queen of space, mass human sacrifice in the Balkans. The monsters are here. Incarnate, Christ almighty, 5 trips was 3 too many. Porton Down Weapons Research Center, England. The Baths. That's what we call it down here. Keeps it light. There's a very high turnover of staff, clinical depression, and a curious tendency to develop abnormal fetishes and sexual fantasies about the tadpoles. Baffling to me, Mr. Special Agent Block. Am I? None. My number date official C numbers ID were trustworthy, a little strange to be expected. Here to install new time travel codes, childhood memory, Doctor Who, happy to be a little scared. You're deep, we acknowledge your intelligence, and tank operatives are being recalled, appropriate for don't overlook this reprinting. Yes, well, that's all in order, of course, Agent Black, Special Agent, yes. Anyway, without further ado, meet our sleeping beauties. Apologies for the pong. Boom! These are Generation Cyphermen. Specially adapted soup kitchen vans troll for the homeless and crawl in the care in the community types. The social work department also does a marvelous job keeping us stocked with fit young men and women who'd otherwise be injecting bleach into their genitals or whatever it is they do for fun nowadays. Ego deletion and reinstallation. Humans a tadpole in less than a week now. Image vulnerability has reduced their resistance to 0. And off they go, state-of-the-art remote viewers capable of seeing and traveling through time as well as space, psychic killer bees obeying the voice of the hive. I get carried away sometimes thinking of what they must see. These new codes, instantly lethal. Leave this to the experts. I'll just wait outside and listen to some Simply Red then, shall I? Tell me when it's safe to turn down the volume. Simply Red? Fuck, let him stay. His brain's already liquidized. Don't tell me you learned acting from a fucking arcade game, you cheap fuck. Instantly lethal. At least I fucking said something. We're in, eh? That was brilliant. You totally fucking went for it. Put your back in traction with that slapping, Ringo. Jesus, why do they get off on doing sick shit to people? Here we go around the mulberry bush. Anchor code, I don't know. Here we go around. Anchor target, again, I don't know. Right about the reek. Ammonia, fucking piss, and meat. Do it, and let's get the fuck out, hon. Excuse me. What was that subliminal shit when you were talking to him? Found out about it in Egypt. I just sort of looked through his eyes and changed what he's seeing. It's not like something you do. Alright. These fuckers are about to go on a fucking time joyride, man. You alright hearing this? Excuse me, you all right hearing this, and makes your skull vibrate and your nose bleed. Fuck you, sounds just like one of my orgasms. Say it. Gross perinatal matrices, birth trauma memories, experiences cosmic horror, global death camps, monstrous technology, poison babies, birth Mason on the Matrix. He's finally pointing it out now. The last of Edith washing off in the Ganges. And yes, he's referring to the Matrix film, which I think is out long after this had come out. Kissing the dirty ancient Ganges, 38 degrees as the monsoon breaks and ionizes the air till it glows. Immortality, menstrual, infinite, time, space, and death. Kiss and live indefinitely. I should be sick, but the words are entering my bloodstream, swarming over the infection and translating it. I see the immune language at work, converting bacteria into text as I write. Dreams are filled with places, people, things, and yet they're all made of the same substance. The dream enemy is as much you. Let's try that one again, guys. It seems important. Dreams are filled with places, people, things, and yet they're all made of the same substance. The dream enemy is as much you as the dream hallway, the dream sky, all unfolded from the same substance, all seeming distinct and separate. Edith being dead is like something being born, she says. Nowhere England. It doesn't matter who I am. Only the concept of division divides us, Sir Miles. When you were young, your journey in search of the invisible led you to the altars of the dark gods, forbidden ones. All-powerful primordial monsters gnawing their way back into an unsuspecting universe. And soon they will come to neuter you. Let's try that one again. Sew up your soul like a wound and make you commandant of Atrocity Camp Earth. You dedicated your life to this? Enough! How dare you talk to me? You know nothing. Nothing. My work. Gah. Yeah. Dirty fuck you. Fuck you. Fuck you. Patoo. Adrenaline. Enzymes. You taste scared and old, Miles. We are the Midwich Cuckoos. We are the Stepford Wives. We are the Forgotten. The outer church you fear and serve, and the invisible college you want to destroy. Same address, Sir Miles. Kill me, you bitch. Get this over with. Be seeing you. Don't be here when I turn around, you horrible old man. Helga, fuck it, Helga. You didn't let him... This improv has gone bloody mad. Well, pervs, what were we supposed to do? Keep him as a pet? Think Patty Hearst. Key 23. 100 MLS. That's enough to make a blue whale hallucinate in Mandarin. I decided to throw the dice, pervs. London, England. Barbalith. Blue mold? I shared a bedsit in the 70s with a hash dealer who told outrageous stories about the ultimate high, allegedly found growing on the walls of a lost station on the London Underground. Let that be a lesson to you. Everything is true. Nothing is permitted. That was the tenets of Chaos Magic, by the way. When I was in the Chaos Magic group, which was not just a social media group, but a good place to meet a lot of chaos magicians. Some of them went on to write several books. I'm not going to go into detail about some of the ones I know, because they are absolutely doing things on their own. I actually happen to have some certain things that they have made. Again, talked about the occult books, my deck of cards that I've got, just a couple of things that I've gotten from that era of my life when I was not reading this book and probably should have been, but I was very interested in a lot of it and just really, really organizing, really learning this kind of brain hacking. That was a really interesting part of my life. It was also a part where my what is that thing? My vagal nerve, my vagus nerve was very intact. I would have massive endorphin highs, like huge endorphin highs, just listening to music, because I had practiced so much of that kind of thought work and dream work and all that kind of thing that I really developed my vagus nerve. And when I messed it up during a mental break that I had about a couple years ago, I lost a lot of that. So it's not something you could easily gain back, but it can over time. I will say that orgasms were phenomenal. It was like a rush to your head. It was incredible. Whatever you guys think an orgasm is, it's nothing until you've actually worked with all this stuff. And there is a big difference now. Much big difference. The motto inscribed on the Black Grail, the Highland Grail of Matter. You watch yourself in there, John. I really can't think of anyone else I'd rather watch, Mr. Crowley. I notice the paint's still wet on the wall. The paint is wet on everything if you squint hard enough. Are you ready to be initiated into the oldest trick in the book, Mr. Six? You must come naked, by the way. Not as John Six, not in any of your masks, your floating identities. Really? When you say naked, would that be health and efficiency style or hardcore? Everything is true. Nothing is permitted. Isn't that the motto of a fictional anti-Masonic lodge invented solely to aid the arrangement of a certain old Etonian initial M? Oh, this is like being on the Dodgems. Whose side are we all on? Or is this a Mobius striptease? I have an extravagantly cultured nose, and right now it smells paint drying. You want me naked, you get 'em off. Haven't you heard? I wear no mask. Several times I once had Tolkien posters on the wall. I've read The King in Yellow and its derivatives. I've also been watching your midget colleagues miming a beginner at a potter's wheel. Those hand movements, if I were to copy them holding a piece of paper, it would look like this, wouldn't it? Of course that would be your key. 2 years detective work on the part of Division X wasn't all wasted, you see. We followed this all the way to the top, to the secret of mind and the universe itself. My God, what is this place? Forgive our seeming violence. This is the only way to prepare for download. You are playing a game disguised as everything, remember? We'd like to invite you to rejoin the ultimate conspiracy. Welcome to the Harlequinade. Grady's time crystal growing in an infinite eternal information ocean beyond time and space. What will Mason's liquid software look like after 2012? Kelly giving birth to skeletons, a picture of space-time seen through the eyes of the fearful, time turning through itself in endless self-generating iterations, endless horror all at once. Bilson, Columbine, Cambodia, the torture cells and the cancer, and Terence McKenna's head, death all at once, triumphant, blood-red ages of Kali. Kali is a terrible mother of the negative universe, where milk is venom and shit is gold and death is life. Deranged reverse entities fill the spaces between things and concepts. Figure to our ground, she says, or vice versa. Knowledge is liquid information, the placenta crashing the last frantic tidal pulses of a pure, loving, self-sacrificing friend of all friends. Survival information downloading instructions to breathe. Edith and Fortnum's, the Ganges flowing through Robin's common blood in that hotel on the way to Arizona. The last time we made love on our way to saving the world. I'm pregnant, she says. Figure and ground, is that two profiles facing, or is it a cup? Figure and ground, the words squirming like mink across the screen, mating, the eclipse like a Vesica Pisces, Edward and Sophie, Posh and Beckham for the proles, the royal wedding. Oh, you certainly pick your moments. Freddie, show yourself. Who gives anything to poor Tom, whom the fool fiend hath led through fire and through flame? Being dead has certainly not improved your rendering of Shakespeare, Freddie. You've brought the cold with you. I had to brutalize the laws of physics to be here. You have no idea. When we discover it, we disappear. It's only a game. It's being wound up, folded and put away like Monopoly. Where are you, Freddie? You seem to be everywhere, like a smell. Magic was always about tricks for you. What next? A balloon menagerie? I do love you, Edie. Everyone falls in love with Edie. I love you too, Freddie. Haven't we seen and done such marvelous awful things, you and I? And how clever and special we all are to be making such big magic. Edith and Tom taking in a migraine burst of mutating letters. Love like an explosion of articulate shrapnel. 5 tabs as 2 and 3 like them. London, England. Oh my God, Sir Miles! The terrorists, what have they done? The fox was in bits. I was in bits. Osiris, it's wrong for a little boy to see the Black Grail manifested in Westminster Abbey, August 11th, dismembered. Don't worry, Sir Miles, it's all... Get him water! The word drug from her breast happening all at once. Bring them through the court of monsters, the ministers of the abyss, Rex Mundi, and the kings and terrors from the sky, the animals screaming forever, no compassion. I had no compassion, no compassion. Urgh! Everything becomes numinous, archetypal, like the odd glowing murder weapons on Cluedo cards. Everything is a tarot trump with endless significance. The table, the door, the telephone, the worlds. Let's say that right. Oh, the words, rather, not the worlds. 28, rich off the books, sick in the soul and the head after Jack Lee left and the cats died. Dead end at the river's edge, hat full of hollow on the headphones. And I thought Edith was dead too, but look. Said excuse me 3 times now. Young man, would you smile for just one moment? Is it the Holy Grail or 2 faces talking? Will you miss her? June 23rd, 1999, Paris, France. Not likely. Not likely. She's been waiting for this since she was 17. There was some prophet guy on TV. He says Paris will be obliterated on August the 11th. There's been thousands of years, and let's try that one again, guys. This has been thousands of years in the planning, you know. Everybody's got their part to play. The Invisibles ride again. You tell the Marquis to be ready. We'll bring the artillery if he brings the orgone. We're having an apocalypse and everyone's invited. Doors open August 11th. No sleep to 2012. Every 11 years, the sun floods the solar system with radiation. The storms have been getting wilder all this century. The last storm of the century started a week ago. Know what they call it? Cycle 23. Here comes the summer. Next, the Invisible Kingdom. This very well might be the last arc of the Invisibles. Okay. So that was a mind trip, wasn't it? Wow. Left you with a lot to think about. I mean, you can analyze this comic and probably find so much in it. I mean, he made it as a hypersigil. I mean, that's confirmed. So there's so much interesting things that you can learn from this book. I guarantee it. But I'd be careful. There was that talk of holding in your orgasm. It can be really bad. Basically, for a man, that can cause some blockage. Yes, I know there is some tantric stuff about it, and it can be very useful, but you can hold it in and cause blockage. I know. I had to go to the doctor for it recently, and it wasn't because of something I'd done recently. And I say recently, like a year or so ago. That doctor's retired, but anyway, if you're doing that, you run a risk, and even look it up online. There's a problem because that has to come out. If not, it can get kind of like you can have some issues rather. You can have like cysts that happen, and that'll really mess you up. Because the cysts can be painful. And they can block sperm. It says they can online, but it's no big deal. Oh no, it absolutely can be an issue, especially if you're trying to have kids. It can make it harder because you're not going to produce as much. It can be some problems. But if guys are like, oh well, I don't want to get all these chicks pregnant, I guess you could try that too. But I'd be very careful doing a lot of that because I used to do that. I used to know holding techniques and all that kind of thing. But I'd be very, very, very careful trying anything like that. Because again, you can have some health issues and cysts and all that kind of stuff to develop. At any rate, this is the Grim Lord, and I'll see you guys next time on Grimm's Comics Corner with more Invisibles. Only like 100 or so pages left. Stay tuned.